Dear friends, you are watching the Ruslan Belov channel. Before we dive into today's analysis, I want to take a moment to ask you, if you find this content valuable and informative, please consider subscribing to the channel. Every subscription truly makes a difference. It helps the channel grow, allows us to reach a wider audience, and enables us to continue delivering detailed, objective coverage of events on the ground. If you are already subscribed, thank you from the bottom of my heart, and please share this video with friends and family who want to stay informed. Now, hit that subscribe button and let's get started. In today's episode, we will analyze the operational situation in Ukraine as of February 12, 2026. The day has turned out to be eventful, so let's get started without delay. We begin with the line of contact. First, let's look at the Zaporizhzhia sector, where, by all appearances, a large-scale battle is unfolding, though information about it is extremely scarce. Only separate geolocated materials, publications from thematic channels, and data from the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation allow us to piece together some picture of what is happening. Specifically, another official report was released by the ministry today, stating that Ukrainian units attempted to apply pressure on Russian positions but suffered significant losses in equipment. This information indirectly indicates that active combat operations in the region have not ceased. Turning to geolocated video footage, the highest volume today is coming from the Orakhiv area. A massive array of objective control materials has been published, documenting Russian strikes on AFU positions south of the city, targeting forest belts, open fields, and the surrounding terrain. Furthermore, strikes are being delivered directly against the settlement itself. The intensity of the Russian army's work is quite high. The footage clearly shows aerial bombs hitting city blocks, attacks on temporary troop deployment points, as well as strikes using multiple launch rocket systems, MLRS. The author of one recording reports several salvos in the direction of the city. Looking at yesterday's geolocations, one can find another major series of video materials dedicated to the battles for Orakhiv. The aggregate of this evidence, and primarily the sheer quantity, clearly indicates that something massive is brewing in the Orakhiv direction. In the foreseeable future, a major offensive by the Russian army should unfold here, and Orakhiv appears to be the priority target. Russian troops are already consistently pulling up from the south and west, although on the western flank, the Ukrainian side launched a counterattack, the results of which are currently unknown. Additionally, following the fall of Huliaipol and Zhalezhnodorozhnoye, Zaliznichne, the Russian army has entered operational space and is beginning to move diagonally in a northwesterly direction on a broad front, aiming to envelop Orakhiv from the northeast and catch it in a pincer movement. Thus, the offensive operation for Orakhiv has effectively already begun. Even if the active phase of combat is currently unfolding a few kilometers from the city, the ultimate strategic goal of these actions is, I believe, beyond doubt. Moving on to the Dobropilya sector of the front, small changes to the line of contact were recorded here today in the area of Belitskoye. This is how the map adjustment looked over the past 24 hours. The Ukrainian side is publishing footage of strikes on the equipment and personnel of Russian units moving along the railway. This material served as the basis for the correction. More and more data indicates that Russian units are gradually encircling Belitskoye along the entire perimeter, and a turning point in the struggle for this settlement will likely arrive in the near future. From territory slightly further north, away from the front line, remarkable footage has been published. It shows a makeshift, spontaneously organized AFU supply line being hit, this time using standard drones. Footage is reappearing from the area of the T-0514 highway, which connects Dobropilya with Kramatorsk. One important circumstance must be noted. Since the moment Starlink was disabled for Russia, the Rubicon Group has stopped publishing its video reports. Recall that since the beginning of January, there was a significant amount of material in which this group demonstrated Starlink drone strikes on radars, equipment and air defense objects of Ukraine deep within the Dnipropetrovsk region. Now, such publications have disappeared. A number of experts note today that the Russian army is gradually adapting to the changed conditions, but this process will evidently require some time. On the Kostantinivka direction, reports are coming in today about fierce fighting in the eastern part of the city. Russian units, judging by available data, are trying to gain a foothold in the eastern quarters. Video footage has also been published of strikes, using missiles or aerial bombs, on bridges across the Bakhmutka River. An aerial bomb hit one bridge, and a Kh-38 or Kh-39 type missile hit another. The targets of the attacks were a railway bridge and a road bridge located slightly to the north. An obvious logic can be traced. The Russian side is systematically dissecting Kostantinivka into isolated segments, intending to deal with each of them separately later on. On the Sloviansk direction, Russian troops continue their offensive movement toward Retaliatory. Map corrections over the last few days clearly reflect fairly active advancement along the M03 highway. Today, changes were recorded in the area of Nikiforovka. It is notable that in February, significantly more video material is being published, documenting strikes on AFU positions within the territory of Retaliatory itself. As assault groups advance, the Russian side is bringing up artillery, and the settlement has already come under the fire control of artillery crews and FPV drone operators. In general, despite the fact that significant square kilometers are still visible on the map before us, the battle for the bridgehead east of the Seversky Donbass Canal is gradually moving toward a conclusion. On the Lyman direction, there are no changes. The Kupiansk sector of the front also has not undergone substantial changes, although a number of experts, including pro-Ukrainian cartographers, recorded insignificant advancements by the Russian army there today. Finally, on the northern directions. In the Sumy sector, an adjustment is noted in the area of Korchakovka. Ukrainian sources are posting video footage of strikes on Russian troop positions along the corresponding forest belt. It was on this basis that the map correction was made. Thus, as of today, the Russian army has come right up to Korchakovka and Novosich, and combat operations have effectively already begun on the second line of defense of Sumy. This concludes the overview of combat operations, and we now turn to the political and operational agenda. Let's start with the massive strike that took place on the night of February 12, 2026. Both sides of the conflict launched large-scale strikes on each other's energy and critical infrastructure objects. Regarding the Russian attacks, for some reason, no one has published a map today with the approximate flight routes of the missiles and drones. The only source of data by the end of the day remains the report from the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, from which one can learn about the quantity and composition of the weapons used by the Russian side. According to this document, a total of 244 aerial targets were employed, 219 drones, 24 Iskander-M ballistic missiles, and one Kh-59 cruise missile. The approximate geography of the strikes is also known from open sources. In particular, a strike was delivered on Kiev. According to available information, the target was TPP-5, Thermal Power Plant Number 5, located in the southern part of the city. This is the only combined heat and power plant that continues to operate in the Ukrainian capital today. Information is coming in about strikes in the Kharkiv region as well, but specific objects have not yet been identified. An attack on the Pridniprovska TPP in the Dnipropetrovsk region is also reported. A significant number of strikes hit Odessa. A large number of video recordings have been published from this region, capturing explosions, fires, and the aftermath of impacts. Authors of the posts and local sources indicate that the target was an energy infrastructure object, presumably a substation, resulting in the Odessa region facing serious disruptions in power supply. At the same time, despite the fact that this strike cannot be called a record in terms of scale, the Russian side, let me remind you, used only 244 aerial targets. It differs fundamentally from all previous ones. Here it is necessary to recall that just the evening before, reports appeared about a massive strike by the Russian side using Kinzhal hypersonic missiles in a western direction. Somewhat later, a number of sources suggested that the target of these strikes was the 750 kilovolt substation Zaporizhzhia, Western Ukrainian, located south of Lviv. This substation has been mentioned repeatedly in our previous analyses. It is through this facility that the connection, and possibly by now the full integration, of the Ukrainian energy system with the European one is maintained. Every time the Russian side struck energy objects, Ukraine reduced the output of its own power plants and compensated for the deficit by increasing electricity imports from EU countries, specifically through this energy corridor. Thanks to this, the Ukrainian side managed to maintain balance in the grid and minimize damage. As is now obvious, prior to delivering the main strike on the Ukrainian energy sector, the Russian side first attempted to cut Ukraine off from the European energy system. And only after that, regardless of whether this intention was fully realized, did the main attack follow. Today, many comments are being voiced about the current state of affairs. In particular, the mayor of Kyiv, Klitschko, reported that 3,700 buildings in the city remain without heating, and power supply interruptions are widespread. Separate sources express the opinion that emergency blackout schedules will persist across Ukraine and in Kyiv for the next 3 years, as the restoration of already destroyed infrastructure seems extremely unlikely in the foreseeable future. It is also necessary to dwell on the Ukrainian retaliatory strike launched that same night deep into Russian territory. According to the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation, 106 Ukrainian drones were intercepted overnight, 24 over the Belgorod region, 21 over the Bryansk region, and 19 over the Voronezh region. Additionally, the Russian military department confirmed the destruction of 5 Flamingo missiles. Speaking of the geography of strikes on Russian territory, according to open-source data, attacks were recorded in the Tambov region. Specifically, information is coming in about strikes on military-industrial objects. The most high-profile event was the strike on the city of Ukhta, where the target, by all appearances, was an oil refinery. Numerous sources are publishing video recordings from the scene indicating that the enterprise sustained damage. If we look at cartographic data, the distance from Ukhta to the northern districts of the Sumy region is about 1,700 kilometers. It is difficult to establish the exact launch site. The strike was likely launched from within Russia itself, although a launch directly from Ukrainian soil cannot be ruled out. This question will likely be clarified over time. However, events did not end with the night strikes. Throughout the day today, Ukrainian sources twice or 3 times published warnings about possible launches of Oreshnik complex missiles from the Kapustin Yar test range toward Ukraine. Each time, the same information was refuted by the Ukrainian side roughly a quarter of an hour later, only to appear in the public domain again. The last such message dates to approximately 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Nevertheless, as of the time this material was prepared, no such strikes have followed. And that wraps up today's briefing. If this analysis was useful to you, please remember to like the video. It genuinely helps the channel reach more viewers. And if you have not subscribed yet, now is the perfect time to do so. By subscribing, you ensure you never miss our daily updates and help support independent, detailed coverage of these rapidly developing events. Share this video with anyone who wants to stay informed, and feel free to leave your thoughts and questions in the comments below. We read everything. Thank you for your time and attention, and all the best to you.